Holy cow, BYU Sports Nation is live, presented by the BYU Store, official outfitter of BYU fans everywhere. A winning Monday like never before in the history of this program.
Yeah.
It is March 24th. I am Spencer Linton. He is a man with an extra sweet tooth today, Jarom Jordan.
Oh my gosh, BYU to the Sweet 16. What a scene we saw there. It was great to have you, by the way, Saturday. It was fun. You flew up. It's great to be together for this historical moment. Cougar Nation was unbelievable in Denver, by the way. Shout out to every BYU fan who made the trip.
Well done.
Later in the show, we'll talk to you about some students who actually got scammed, and then Cougar Board actually paid for their tickets to get in, which is pretty amazing. But how about the fans that showed up at the airport? In Provo, chanting KYU, you saw that. The fans that were in Denver when Wisconsin's band and cheerleaders would come out, they'd start the BYU Cougars, like so intimidating for the opponents. And how about 14 years apart, Joel Marion, who works in athletic marketing on campus, he's the kid on the right that has a sign in Denver that says it's peanut butter Jimmer time. And then he has the sign, it's still peanut butter Jimmer time 14 years later. That's awesome. I know Joel. We know Joel. He's great. I didn't realize he was also that kid when that came out. That's so cool. So we've talked about it before. BYU fans know when there's a moment, and that was a moment in BYU basketball and BYU sports history. And how about in Tom Homo's final hurrah here the last couple months? BYU goes to the Sweet 16, and his last, one of perhaps his last hires was Kevin Young, and he has crushed it.
This is the proper send-off for the GOAT AD at BYU.
Yep.
Incredible stuff over the weekend, and not surprisingly, we have an incredible show lineup, including how in the world BYU beat Wisconsin and never trailed in the game, not for 1 second. Also, what a Sweet 16 appearance means for BYU in Kevin Young's first season as head coach. Plenty of post-game reaction from the Tater Tot King. He's taught to trot, Jarom. Richie Saunders, Yegor Demin, Mawit Mag, Kebaketa, and Fouche Traore all on the program.
Hey, the free tater tots after, David Holliday, our camera operator, he was trying to sign up for it. Just crashes. We're outside the BYU locker room waiting for them. He's trying to get his free tots. Crash. So it's a good problem.
All rise and shout. As if you hadn't already, it's time for What's Trending.
For the third time in Brigham Young University athletics history, BYU men's basketball is headed to the Sweet 16.
This team's ready for whatever the challenge is next.
BYU has developed as a team an ability to win in the clutch.
Well, he doesn't know or care about the history of BYU in the NCAA tournament. He's paving new roads.
BYU basketball has been at it, in a way, for 123 years, and this is just the third time that they have entered the Sweet 16. Incredible stuff. What's Trending, presented by BYU Food to Go, the MVP of your next event. Okay, Jarom, Sweet 16, BYU dancing quite literally after the game, their way into the next round of the bracket after beating Wisconsin, the 3 seed, 91-89 on Saturday night. We'll discuss how BYU was able to hold off a furious rally by the Badgers in just a moment. But first and foremost, what does it mean for BYU's program to make a Sweet 16 appearance in Kevin Young's first year as the head coach in Provo?
It means everything. It's amazing. Preseason, I predicted Sweet 16 for BYU. When BYU started 1-3, I wavered a bit. I thought, I'll just take anything in the NCAA tournament now. Then the Cougars, someone tweeted this. I can't remember who it is. I apologize. It took half a season for Kevin Young and this staff to figure out college hoops. And now it's taken half a season for college hoops to figure out BYU and Kevin Young. I thought that was well stated. BYU, credit to the players, coaches, staff, administrators, donors, which is a big deal now with NIL and everything. Cougar Nation, who showed up, they were at home too, watching this, for making this happen. This is one of the greatest teams in program history. I think we can officially say top 3.
Go.
TBD on where they land. TBD, they could be the greatest team ever if they win 2 games this week. Frankly, if they win 1, they might be the greatest team ever in the modern era. Woo. We'll talk about that later. But they aren't done. That's the exciting thing. And the energy that I mentioned Friday after Thursday's win was they weren't overly excited to have won that game because they knew that they could keep going. And I talked to several sources going into Saturday night that said team's feeling pretty confident, as they should. They played great. It was also awesome to have the BYU Avengers at the game. You would turn and look, and it's like, dude, the who's who, Jimmer, Taysom Hill, Ryan Smith, Lee Cummard, Gifford Nielsen, Tyler Haas, all these people showed up for this moment. And it was great to have you there, too. It was awesome, man.
What a moment. We just need Steve Young in the building at some point, right?
Let's get Steve to Newark. Let's go.
Steve, what's it going to take to get you to New Jersey?
I am excited, frankly, about the East Coast homies being at that game. There's way more fans, as we know, on the East Coast than maybe you'd think. Denver certainly was a good spot for that. But BYU's going to show up and show out against some blue bloods. BYU, Arizona, Duke, Alabama in the regional there in the East.
I've said incredible like 7 times already on the show.
It's apt.
But it is. It absolutely is. Can we just discuss what Kevin Young has accomplished in 11 months as the head coach at BYU? And frankly, we all wanted like 3 things. We had expectations, no doubt. You said, I want BYU to go to the Sweet 16 with all this talent.
Yeah.
The expectations were there, but I think we were all really just hoping for BYU to, 1, get NBA talent in the building, check. Get back to the NCAA tournament, check. And then win a game. Just win a game. Like, show progress. Now they're into the Sweet 16. He has absolutely crushed this thing.
I didn't, when he was hired, I was maybe hoping for one of those 4 things. I did not expect the 4th one or the 3rd one, per se. Although once we got to preseason, we actually saw the roster.
Meaning a Sweet 16 or signing the number 1
or signing
recruit?
AJ. Yeah, but what a season! And like this is the beginning. This isn't the end. This is we're not in the middle of this. We're in the beginning of this with Kevin Young, which is exciting.
BYU is 1 win away from equaling their most accomplished feat as a basketball team in the modern era.
And that was a 48-team tournament. This is the first time, that would be, if they win, the first time in the 64-plus team tournament.
This is the equivalent, and we talked about this, of BYU football making a college football playoff appearance.
Absolutely.
There are how many Division I college basketball teams?
364.
364!
BYU is in the 96th percentile of teams left in this situation.
16 teams out of 364. This is the playoff of sorts.
It is. It's a 1-game playoff every game.
You win, you're in the Elite 8. BYU playing incredibly high-level basketball. In fact, let's go ahead and read you some of the top social media reaction from across the country.
I almost get as much joy out of reading Twitter after as I do the game. It's such a fun process.
The reaction.
Yes.
This from Utah Jazz and NBA star at Jordan Clarksons, who says, BYU playing some high-level basketball right now. He was dialed in. He knows what's happening in Provo. He knows what Kevin Young is all about, that NBA style.
This is all lowercase, by the way. So grammatically, we need like something capitalized there. But Jordan, I appreciate you weighing in.
You pointed this out to me when it happened from at JJ Watt, who says, quote, boycotting tater tots for the next 48 hours. Of course, JJ, a Wisconsin graduate.
He had tweeted before, like, hey, shout out to the great grandpa invented the tater tots. Da, da, da. Or Ida tweeted, salty 16 has a nice ring to it. I see what they did there.
Indeed. We all want a little sweet and salty.
Sweet and salty. That's awesome.
At Face Cosby says, all hail King Tot Richie Saunders.
Look at this AI, dude. It's a potato on a stick. He's got long hair. I think he'd pull off that long hair, by the way. It's just whether the testing center will allow it.
All the good vibes. I love this one from at BYU All Blue. Jake Welch, who said, I got pulled over and only got a warning because we can't lose, fam.
Kevin yelling. Dude, the energy, the excitement. Like, you and I are quote-unquote media members, but we work for the school.
Yes.
We wandered down in the tunnel, and we were like the first thing they saw between leaving the fans and before they got in the locker room. And it's hard not to just be juiced for these guys. They've worked so hard. We've seen what they've gone through. It wasn't easy. They're playing so well. Pumped for these guys, man. So pumped for these guys. Okay, which brings us to this. How did BYU pull off this win versus Wisconsin?
By doing what they've always done, Jarom, especially over this incredibly
12 games where they won 11.
12 wins. Sorry, the 12 games is 11 and 12.
11
That's right.
and 1, yep.
What they've done over this span is just trust the process. They use they use the bench. They do not fret. They just stay engaged in the game. Like they are playing fearless basketball right now. The shot making, Jarom. The shot making and the mental fortitude it takes to want to take big shots in big moments and then make those shots. How many guys stepped up and just knocked down wildly impressive and important shots? Trevin Nell, Trey Stewart, Dawson Baker, Yegor Demian. It was wild. Of course, Richie Saunders.
Keba at the free throw line when they hacked him.
Hack of Keba did not work.
He scored 4 points in the 2 possessions when they tried to hack him. When you win 91-89, every single moment matters. Every possession, every little thing. And BYU was unbelievable. Another high-scoring winner at Arizona, Iowa State, and Kansas City. Now this against quality teams. Both teams hit 12 threes. BYU shot 46%. BYU is +9 on the boards. As you mentioned, BYU never trailed. In fact, Robbie McCombs of Vanquish Fall mentioned BYU hasn't trailed in 70 minutes.
Whoa.
It was the 10-minute mark into the VCU game. In the NCAA tournament, BYU got up big. 20 against VCU, 14 against Wisconsin. They held on. There's something to that, right? Being up at half, holding on to that lead. I know it got nervous at the end. Richie Saunders was awesome. 25 points, 7 rebounds. His 6 offensive rebounds were the second most in an NCAA tournament game in BYU history. I saw Michael Smith yesterday. I said, you have 7. You're number 1. Richie second. Good work. I said, you did more than shoot. Good for you, Mike. Yegor Demian. I thought there was a chance he'd maybe come back, but he played too good in this tournament. Dude, this guy should go. Like, he is on fire.
And fans were chanting, one more year
to Yegor.
One more year.
Which I thought was to Tom Homo, and then I told that to Tom. He goes, no, I'm done. 11 points, 8 rebounds, 8 assists, and just 1 turnover. Cougar Stats put this into context. He said in the NCAA tournament, freshmen with at least 11, 8, and 8. Listen to these names. Jalen Suggs, Kenny Anderson, Quinn Buckner, Jameer Nelson, Magic Johnson, Jason Kidd, Yegor Demian.
Yeah.
And none of those dudes only had 1 turnover.
As Cougar Stats put it, this list doesn't have a bunch of scrubs on it.
No. I ain't no scrub.
It's incredible.
A scrub is a guy who ain't getting no love from me, Spence.
That is elite company right there for Yegor.
Trevin Nell, 4 of 6 from 3.
That's what I'm saying.
Right before the half.
Jarom, it took everybody on this team that
Trey
plays
Stewart.
their role doing their thing.
Mawit Mag's defensive stop is perhaps, it's the second greatest defensive play of the year because Keba's block at Iowa State
chase down
will not be beaten. John Tanjay, the Johns the Beloved, as I called them, Blackwell and Tanjay, he was unbelievable. 37 points, hard to keep him off the line. He did not go hard to the rim on that last play. I give Mawit Mag all the credit for the incredible play he made. BYU, incredible on the rebounds. You know what else BYU also overcame? The scoreboard. Because at one point, Wisconsin, according to the scoreboard, had 228 points.
I'm not sure what happened to the bug
BYU
operator.
overcame. That was so messy. Big Nate 12, I think, pointed out, like, hey, going to be hard to come back from this one.
We're down 241 points.
What was happening?
I don't know what was happening on the broadcast, but like when the score went out of control, that created some funny moments.
We were like, what's going on? The players were laughing about it in the locker room. They're like, what happened?
We're asking, like, how BYU does. Okay, how about the means to overcome the adversity that was created by an unfriendly whistle?
The Dawson Baker call. Come on. I hate that he has to be by himself at the end of that game. He doesn't get to enjoy it with his homies. In football, they changed that to where if you're ejected for targeting, you can stay on the bench. We'll show you the video that went viral of him in the locker room. That the great BYU social media team set up a camera for the postgame celebration. Instead, they got footage that they didn't think they would get. A flagrant 2 from Dawson. Don't like the call. We need to figure out a middle ground there to, hey, that's a flagrant 1. He didn't severely injure the dude on purpose. Come on. That was weird. Officiating was pretty weird. BYU overcame that too.
Yes, they overcame it. They
Fuchs gets raked in the face. Dallin doesn't foul Tanjay.
What was happening? Like, seriously, what was happening? It was super weird, but they overcame it. It didn't matter.
Yeah.
It didn't matter. Like we were saying, VCU made 15 3-pointers. Didn't matter. BYU wears you down. They just keep at it. Kevin Young continually says, this time of year, you cannot fake it. You cannot fake what you are. You have to go and be who you are, who you have established yourself as.
Yep.
And BYU is one of the deepest, if not the deepest team in the country.
Bama's pretty deep too. We'll dive into that in a minute.
In terms of balance.
Yep.
Like, yes, Alabama, super talented. They remind me a little bit of the Wisconsin matchup.
They're a better Wisconsin. They're a faster
Which
Wisconsin.
is why they are a 2 seed, and Wisconsin
And they went
was
to the Final 4 last year.
Yes.
Yeah, they're another level.
Alabama is elite, no doubt about it. But does anybody think, because of what BYU has done over the last month plus, that they can't go and win this game?
BYU can do anything right now.
It feels like it.
At such a high level.
It feels like it.
How about this stat from Opta-Stats? This is like unbelievable. Offensive stats for BYU. 91 points, 21 assists, 49.2 field goal percentage, 46.2 three-point percentage, 93.8 free throw percentage. No other team in NCAA tournament history has put up those numbers or better in a single game. Did BYU just play the greatest offensive game in the history of the NCAA tournament? I think they did. That's unbelievable.
They played the best offensive game in NCAA tournament history as far as BYU goes, no question.
They didn't say BYU there.
I know. They said
anybody.
NCAA.
Holy mackerel.
Remember when free throw shooting was a concern?
4 of 10 at Arizona State. Oh, my gosh.
It's gonna hurt. This is going to kill BYU. They're not going to win a tournament game because of this. No, they have figured it out. They have figured
games.
Yeah. 94% from the free throw line.
Get the right people to the stripe. Keba Keita's the only miss there, right?
How did BYU do this? Because
Keba Keita's the only miss.
Everybody understands their role.
Yes.
Everybody is bought into what their specific role is. There are no questions, no floundering, no wanting to push back on what the coaching staff's trying to do. Everybody, when they say we're bought in, best locker room in America, we hear all these cliches, right? I believe it.
Yes.
I believe it with this team.
And there are a couple disgruntled players. Let's not act like that's not the case, right?
You can't keep everybody happy.
But it's impossible to do that, right? The players that are playing are contributing for BYU. They're doing great. This is unbelievable. This run is incredible, and it's not over, baby. We have not, in the history of the show, experienced this moment, which was the first and second round of the NCAA tournaments happened, and we are still talking about a future BYU basketball game.
BYU.
We have with the NIT, but who cares about the NIT? We about the dance.
BYU's bench, once again, doing their thing. 24 points, outscored Wisconsin's bench 24-3.
Trey Stewart. Awesome.
Just one little cog that made a wild difference. Hit a huge shot. How many times did I hit you during the game? Whoa. Are you kidding
Big
me?
shot. Big shot.
Wow.
By the way, did not notice until later that Trey threw himself an oop off the backboard.
Oh, you did it? I saw it.
In the moment,
I saw it happen.
I'm just like, there's so much to look at. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, there was a fake news report that hit social media, so it was like, they could call a technical foul after the buzzer for that and have Wisconsin shoot free throws.
Let me guess, it was a Utah fan.
I think it was a Wisconsin fan. I don't know for sure.
Oh, he dunked it after the buzzer. I'm so sad.
What are we doing? Balanced effort. How's BYU doing?
Back to your cheese curds.
Balanced effort. Trusting your role. No, you can't fake it this time of year. Everybody's bought in. Our question of the day, we're all relishing, basking in the glow of the Sweet 16.
Everglow. You remember that musical group?
I do. Where does this win over Wisconsin to advance to the Sweet 16 land on your personal list of BYU's greatest wins? Everybody's going to have a different answer because a lot of you have had different fan experiences, and all of you are different ages, and it spans different generations.
All the little kids that are watching BYU just thrive in the Big 12 have no idea the wilderness we waded through to get to the Holy Land.
Horseman on X answers the question of the day. I was on my mission during Jimmermania and wasn't alive for Danny Ainge's heyday, so it's top of the list for me for basketball.
There you go. It's a better win than Wofford or Gonzaga. It's better than the 2011 NCAA tournament wins.
You just beat a 3 seed.
You just beat a 3 seed.
You got to go back to 81 when BYU was a 6 seed and beat the 3 seed UCLA.
Yes. We'll debate this more. We're going to have a long offseason that hopefully won't happen for 2 weeks? That's the hope. Let's go. What are your initial thoughts on BYU's matchup with Bama in the Sweet 16?
I just saw that BYU is a 4.5-point underdog. That's exactly what I expected.
Yeah, that's fair.
I think I said it. I think Alabama reminds me of Wisconsin, but there is the uptick.
Yeah.
I mean, Mark Sears is. You watch what he did in the NCAA tournament last year.
That's not Jalen Brunson?
Doesn't he not remind you of Jalen Brunson?
Well, he's absolutely.
It's a very
carbon copy.
Very similar player.
Yeah.
Mark Sears is another level. John Tonje, of course, did his thing for Wisconsin against BYU. So BYU is now going to see All-American players in back-to-back games.
Yes, but as good as Sears is, Tanjay individually a better one-on-one player than.
And that's why he'll have a very, very lucrative, successful NBA career.
Yeah, he'll be out.
But Mark Sears has this ability, like, it doesn't matter if he's had a bad game. That dude is just big time in clutch moments.
Yeah.
And that's where BYU has been so good as a team. They've been clutch.
Yeah. Well, Whit Mag and Trey Stewart are going to be on
moments.
Sears. Yeah.
So how does BYU defend that guy? Is Grant Nelson fully healthy for Alabama?
He didn't play a ton in the first-round game against old Bob Morris, but he played a bunch yesterday.
So they look like they're getting back to what they are. I don't know how much Alabama will get after you defensively. That's why I say there's some similarities to Wisconsin, right? They get into a lot of high-scoring shootouts.
They are a top 30 defense, efficiency.
So what will they try and do to make BYU uncomfortable? Wisconsin, we saw at times, wanted to pressure and do some things that they, statistically speaking, don't typically do, which is turn the other team over a lot. Like we saw that they started to kind of wear down and get tired, and that's when BYU built their lead out to 14, and then they adjusted again, and John Tanjay got hot. But to me, this is, it's a better version of Wisconsin, and they bring swagger, Jarom. This is a team that has swagger that Wisconsin doesn't have.
Alabama went to the Final Four last year. They were ranked number 1 earlier in the year. They could have been a 1 seed very easily. They're 4th in offensive efficiency, number 1 in points per game, number 1 in tempo, 3rd in 2-point percentage, 1st in strength of schedule. 9th in D1 experience, 6th in bench points. They can go toe-to-toe with BYU's bench a little bit.
Okay.
7th in free throws and free throw attempts, 1st in rebounds per game. To me, that'll be a battle point is rebounds.
This is the best offensive team that BYU has seen all
hands
year.
down.
Not even close.
And on paper, they are a better offense than BYU. But the last 12 games, BYU is one of the best offenses with Alabama. They're right there. So we'll break it down more the next couple of days, more specifics. But this is a challenge for BYU. But the way BYU's playing, they can play with anybody. Anybody in college basketball.
It's probably going to take a performance like BYU had in one of the 2 wins against Iowa State, one of the wins against
Arizona, Wisconsin. That vibe.
Baylor.
You've got to keep scoring.
BYU is going to need to be elite again on offense.
I don't see how this game is sub-80 at all. I think it'll be in the 90s. I dare say someone might have 100. They said on CBS, TNT, all that, they're like, might be a combined 200. If you like offense, you're going to love this game.
I jokingly said 1st to 90 wins in the BYU-Wisconsin game. It feels like that translates to BYU-Alabama. First to 90 wins the game?
Yeah.
It might be that case.
Colton Potter, our producer, what was the over-under again? 175? 174.5? That's so high. Hey, BYU Sports Nation will have live coverage from the Sweet 16. Spencer will be there. Can't wait. And myself in Newark, New Jersey, starting Wednesday. Join us each morning. And for the first time, both of us will be in the Eastern time zone doing it at noon Eastern. We always say noon Eastern. We'll finally do it at noon Eastern.